Hello everyone! In today's video I'm going to be showing you a realistic lion 3D nail art design that has most of the color built up just with acrylic, so there's lots of different layers of different shades of browns in it, and it goes along with some past realistic animal designs that I've done, and I can put links to all of those past ones in the description box below, so if you like this particular style, definitely check for that. Otherwise, I hope you love this and I'll see you next time. Bye! So we are going to begin with a marble of blue to green acrylic over the background, just to kind of give it like a savanna sky and, different types of grasses. Really subtle in the background, and most of it gets covered up anyway. So now we're going to encase the nail with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure it is nice and strong. That first layer that I marbled was incredibly thin, so that layer of clear is vital to make sure that this nail isn't fragile. So now, after that has been filed into shape, we're going to be using shades of brown, tan, black, cream, etc. to sculpt our lion face. With the lightest shade I have, which is just an off-white cream color, I'm going to be doing just the very basic shape of our lion's face. And the reason I started the reason I started laughing is because when I said just an off-white, really light cream color, it looks just like my skin tone. I'm so pale. And it just cracked me up because I was saying I was so pale, and yeah, just like me. Anyways, once we have that done, we are going to take a darker brown and a black and start adding layers to our lion's mane. And I know it doesn't look like there's a smooth blend from mane to face like you kind of want it to be. You don't want this like sharp contrast and this obvious point of where it changes from the shorter face hair to that long fluffy mane. You want it to just blend fairly smoothly, but you want the back layers or the lowest layers of that mane to be very dark, so that when you add lighter shades of tans and browns on top of it, it gets this beautiful depth. So you want to start out with those really, really dark colors, all the way down to, like, I use some black in it. You can add some black on the tips of the ears, fill in the middle of the ears with brown, add some black here and there. Look at some photos of lions. There's a lot of different coloration that can be, that you can see in them. Some of them are a little more of a golden color. Some of them are almost more gray tones. There's variety, so you can have some fun with it. So once I have that first back layer done of the really dark color, I'm going to go through with a shade of tan that is darker than the original shade I used, and lighter for sure than the dark brown that I used on the mane. And just start adding some more layers to it. More layers, more layers, more layers. That's the whole deal with this design, is you want to just keep building up different layers, different colors, blend things out, add little touches of the darker colors on top of the lighter colors. Just keep adding more shading, more dimension, add more color. There's really not a case of where you can do too much. So now that I have the mane, fairly well underway, I'm going to be adding some more details to my lion's face using a color darker than the background color, that same color that I used for that little bit of color on the mane. I'm going to be adding just some more height to my lion's face. Bridge of the nose, up on the forehead, down to where the mouth, like chin and cheeks are. You're just going to want to keep adding more to it. And as you're doing all of these layers and building this up more, don't be afraid to add height. That's one thing with doing this extreme 3D style, is I really like to build up some good height on it. So it's not, sometimes you can sculpt something in 3D and you have the different colors and it is three-dimensional, has a texture to it, but it really doesn't go up. With this particular style, I want my designs to have height. I want them to be built up off the nail. And you can see that more so with some of the other ones I did. I have a giraffe, that was the first one I did, that you can definitely see that extra height to. And like I said, I'll put links to the past ones in the description box below, but the whole idea is to get that really crazy off the nail height. So we're going to add a little shelf for the nose. I'm going to be sculpting that in with the same color I've been using so far. And then once you do go through and add the nose later, it'll fit just right up against that spot. Add some highlights. That original light cream color you used, you can go back and grab that again and use that to bring some brightness in here and there wherever it's needed. Highlight the spots that, that just need to be a little bit brighter. Again, look at your lion photos. Don't just be relying on what you remember or what I'm doing, but actually go back and look at some pictures, because it'll help you more than anything else. And then I'm going to actually use a sparkly gold acrylic to be sculpting in the eyes. And the reason I'm doing that is cats have these beautiful deep eyes. I mean, there's even, cat eye gel polish. They're famous for their eyes. And we want them to have that really nice, glistening, deep look to them. So we're going to be doing the eyes with some glitter, go through and add some darker shades of brown around the eyes. If there's any point in this design where you have the height you're going for, but the colors just aren't right, you can always do some adjustments on that with acrylic paint later. In fact, you'll see me do that. But try to get as much of it sculpted in with the acrylic, because it'll just give it a little bit different appearance. I've more and more been trying to do everything I can with acrylic and saving just the bare necessities with acrylic paint, the very last few things to do with acrylic paint. And I think it makes a huge difference, especially since you can kind of pat out the acrylic and get those really beautiful washes like I just did on our kitty cat's forehead there. And you could just get these beautiful different effects when you do as much as you can with acrylic. Not that there's anything wrong with using acrylic paint on such a sculpture. Nothing at all. We're going to go through, add some more highlights around the eyes. A lot of times cats have a brighter area of fur just right above and below their eyes. Sometimes on their cheeks, their chin, those high points you might want to highlight a little bit more. Add low lights around the face. Like I said, keep going until you're happy with it. I'm not going to forget his nose though. The first thing I'm going to do on the nose is use black acrylic. Once I have that base done with black acrylic, you can actually go through and add a pink hue to it. And you'll see me do that in just a second, but it looks so beautiful because the black actually shows through the pink and it gets this, again, we're kind of going for a depth look, and it gets this beautiful deep appearance. Add some more highlights around the face, under the eyes, on the cheeks, on the lips, nose, ears, essentially anything that when you look at this design, you don't feel like it jumps out at you. You don't feel like it's an obvious enough addition. You know, the ears, maybe they blended in with the mane a little too much. You need to add a bit more to that. So then you go through and you add it. The other thing that you can do, which is what I'm doing a little bit right now, is you can make a double dip bead of acrylic. So you take and you dip into a light shade, for instance, your cream, and then you dip that bead again into a tan. That'll give you just some marbling throughout the color, and it will add a lot with very little effort because you're doing just one round of work, but it's giving you multiple colors. Just keep going through. The more you add, typically, the more depth it has. Sometimes there's a point where you can go too far. It's your job to make sure you don't surpass that point. Add little hairy bits here and there. Use acrylic still if you want to, but all these little highlights here could certainly be done with paint. I'm going to add a little more shading on the face. I want so much depth in this type of a design that it's almost hard to stop because you just keep seeing things once you start looking for them. Keep going, add a little bit more of a darker spot right in the middle of the forehead, around the ears. You want everything just to show up beautifully. Last but not least, we are going to add that little bit of pink on the nose. Like I said, it looks so beautiful because that dark color underneath shows through and peeks through. And then after you have that little nose done, you can go through and do any of those smaller details that you think are necessary with acrylic paint. I'm going to go through and just add some fur texture here and there. Not a whole ton because, like I said, most of it is done with acrylic paint. Going to define any of the shapes I feel like need to just be a little more obvious. The most important one in this particular line is going to be his eyes. You want to make sure those eyes stand out, show up, and just look fierce and majestic. So add some nice black eyeliner to your lion. Add his pupil, and just a couple little specks of lines here and there. This is certainly a case where you could easily go overboard with the black. You don't want this design to end up looking too dark. You want his fur to almost have this glistening appearance, and anytime that's the case, when something glistens and shines, it's got a lot of low lights, it's got a lot of highlights, so where the light is bouncing off of it. So you want to add, enough to give it that appearance without adding too much where it just looks really dark or really bright. It's all about balance. Outlines around the nose. You can add some highlights in the eyes or any other spots where you feel like they might be necessary. I did a very light cream shade of acrylic paint just to add some more brightness, especially around the eyes, and then just a little bit in any place else I feel like it is important. But like I said, eyes are just the most crucial element of a design like this. When you're adding any fur texture to the face, use a dabbing motion, almost like pointillism if you're familiar with pointillism. Not lines. You don't want to do lines. You want to do just little like taps of your brush. That'll give it that shorter fur appearance, and then those lines should get slightly longer as they reach towards the areas where the mane starts. And keep going, add some white here and there. You can actually use full strength white around the eyes and inside the eyes for a reflection on the eye itself. I wouldn't overdo the white anywhere else. You want to try to keep it simple, but if it calls for it, certainly go ahead. Once you are all happy with your lion, then you can go ahead and you're going to be using some top coat. If you're doing this as part of a design or you wanted to do, a lot of nails that go with it, I would probably stick with that background kind of marble mix. It looks really beautiful, the color combination with the lion, even though we completely covered it up, but it just gives that kind of savanna, out in the middle of the sun vibe. The last thing I'm going to add paint-wise is going to be those whiskers. You can't forget a whisker on any type of kitty cat. Make sure that those
Whiskers are super prominent. Don't forget cats have whiskers on not just their cheeks, also some in their ear, yeah, well, their ears, but on their chin. And then we're going to be adding a layer of gel sealer over the background. Cure that and matte top coat over Sir Lion, and that is it. I love this one so much. I think he's just so cool. As you can see from the side view, he has a nice amount of height built up. I will put links to all of those past realistic animals in the description box below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!